Well, hello, friends. So today, look what we're working on. Something modern for once. This is out of a pretty brand new Dodge truck, I believe. If I remember that correctly. I don't know. I just took it out of the truck. I didn't really look at the truck, but I think it was a Dodge. But it's got this really unusual double top stitch right here. You can see that right there on the welt. So they did the 1970s welt style retro, huh? With a double top stitch right on top of that. Look at that. It's crazy stuff. But anyway, it's got these inserts that have the perforation. And it's kind of a special perforation, if you could see it right there. But anyway, what happened is his dog is a pretty large dog. Lets him loose on the back seat of his truck. So the nails of the dog got through to the perforation here, just kind of ripped it up. So he came by and asked me for some help on this. And I had first suggested to him maybe just replace it in vinyl, that it would be pretty durable for him and the dog. Then I thought to myself, wait a second, I have some black leather on hand. So I decided I was just going to go ahead and do it in a solid black leather this time, not the perforation. And I thought to myself, I'm probably be throwing that big black hide of leather away in the trash anyway later on when it comes time for me to liquidate all my assets for my move to the Philippines. But anyway, yeah, instead of throwing it in the trash, I thought, well, you know what? I'll just do it in here for him. I'll put him some nice black leather. So here we go. So the first thing we always do is we always mark our intersections. So that way we know how everything goes back together again. You always do that. I'm using white chalk. You almost never see me use white chalk, right? Actually, you almost never see me do the same thing twice. I'm always doing something different. So the reason I'm using white chalk now is because this is the suede right here. It could even be the Alcantara suede. So I don't want to use my the Sharpie marker here, the China marker. I don't want to use the China marker on suede because it might not come off as easy. So anyway, that's why I'm using the chalk this time. Now I'll take Lucille the box cutter with a serrated edge and we'll start popping threads here. So I'm going to remove this seat insert here. That's the next thing. I'm going to get rid of that. This is double stitched because it has this Velcro here in the back. So I got to cut through 2 stitches here. It's always a lot easier if it's still on the truck cushion, because it's like your third hand. It's helping you hold it. When you're taking something apart that's loose like this, it's a little harder to do because you don't have that third hand to help pull. But a couple videos ago, I discovered a good third hand that I can use. Matter of fact, I'll go get that. If you find value in my upholstery tutorials, now is an easier way to contribute to my YouTube channel. Buy a coffee by scanning this QR code now. Thank you. This is my new third hand right there. I knew this battery would be good for something. So One of my old sayings is, I wish that God had given me a third hand. I could get so much done so much faster if I had a third hand. But then again, I thought to myself, well, if I had a third hand, I'd look really funny. So anyway. One thing that you want to be careful of when you're taking something like this apart is not to damage anything that you're going to be using again later. But it doesn't matter so much, like we're not going to be using this one here again anymore. So it doesn't matter what you do to it, right? So, but you don't want to damage the one that you're going to be using later. That's what I'm talking about, the third hand. You see how it's providing weight and I can pull on the material like this? So much easier. Before it was just floating loose. Okay, so I got those three sides. Now this is where it's going to get really interesting. Where this is like triple, quadruple sewn. There's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches here. So that's what's going to make that really interesting, is when I go to sew all this back together again. It's kind of a crazy design, but it looks pretty good, but it's part of the design. So I need to duplicate that when we're all done. That way it doesn't look weird. So now I'm cutting through all these different threads. You can see it right there. So actually I guess I'm cutting 3 because one is still attached. The welt is attached. I got that much. Get this side. Finish this off. Okay. Now, let's see what we got. The next thing we want to do is clean off all the old threads as best as you can, if not all of them. So that way you don't have any of them sticking out later when you go to sew it back together again. Just go around the whole thing like this and just pick them out. Because sometimes there'll be like a long one sticking out like this, right? You can see it right there. So just pick that out, because if you go to sew it together and that one's still sticking out, it'll look bad. Okay, now we'll take these pattern parts here apart. We're going to have 3 separate panels here. This one here doesn't have to come apart so pretty. It's just going to go in the trash anyway. You get a pretty good idea about what happened here with this perforated leather, huh? That's crazy. I think this truck's only a few years old. That's the thing about this perforated materials like this, is they're not going to last. There's just no logical way that they're going to last decades or years or whatever. So these are the same length, so there's no confusion there. So this is the black leather here that I told him I would use on his truck. So we'll go ahead and start patterning these out. There's one, got that one. I think I could probably get this one out of this piece right here. Don't want to get too close to the boy. This was the boy right here, the boy bull. Boy bull. That sounds kind of weird. Boy bull. Say that 10 times and it'll sound really weird. Okay, got that one. This one here, probably get from where? Maybe from here. Yep, that works. Okay. Okay, let's get these cut out. So I'm going to cut on the outside of my white line because I'm going to be foaming these up with some 1/4 inch scrim. All of this here, all this scrap is just going to go in the trash. Some of you are probably saying, hey, I could use that for something. I could make keychains. I could make wallets. Well, I don't mess around with that kind of stuff, so it goes in the trash. I guess I could make a wallet right there, right? That would be a wallet. But I've already got one. I need another one. Okay. This is the waste that we have from that. Okay, let's get these foamed up. So the other day, I actually got a phone call from Keystone Brothers, my supplier. They're saying, yeah, somebody who's one of your viewers on YouTube, they said that they saw that you're buying foam from us. And I said, well, yeah, I always tell everybody that's where I get my upholstery supplies. I said, I mention you guys all the time. Well, he was a younger guy, I guess I was talking to, and of course he wasn't going to offer me any kind of a sponsorship, right? He's just a guy that works there. But anyway, they wanted to know where to get, or they wanted to know exactly what the foam was that I'm using. And I said, well, yeah, it's the one that's either black or gray. It's got the black back or the gray back. I call it the bulletproof scrim. It's really good stuff. So that's how they knew. That's how they knew how to fill the order for the other guy. They called me. If you notice, I didn't let the contact adhesive dry 10 or 15 minutes before putting the material together. I know you guys have heard me say this before. It's repetition, right? But there's a lot of new viewers all the time that never heard it before. So that's why I always repeat. There's a lot of people here that are watching this for the first time. So I see on other YouTube videos where they always say, yeah, you gotta let it dry for 10 or 15 minutes before you put the two pieces together. But you guys know that if it's going soft to soft, I never let it dry. I just put it together right away. But if it was like wood, like this, or metal, or fiberglass, I would let it dry for 5 or 10 minutes on the fiberglass. Okay, let's go ahead and sew these up. So I'm going to be sewing right on top of that white line right there. That's our pattern. Okay, then we're going to cut right next to that thread. Use a different pair of scissors. So cut right next to the thread without actually cutting the thread. You know, it's when you're repeating something is when it's like the practicing, right? If you wanted to practice to learn how to play piano, you're going to play that same song over and over and over and over again until you get it really good. Kind of like this, right? So there's a lot of repetition, but it just gets better and better. Do the same thing here to the other two pieces. I was thinking about this the other day. You know how they say that people practice medicine, that doctors they practice medicine. And I'm like, well, shouldn't they know what they're doing? They go through how many years of college and high school and university and medical school and all that stuff, and they're still practicing? Well, I guess they have to practice too, huh? But I thought to myself, well, what if I told one of my customers, oh, I'm going to be practicing on your car? How would they take that? I'm not sure. I'd want to give my business to somebody says that they're practicing on my car. So why did the doctors say that they're always practicing? I don't get it. Maybe you could put it in comments. Help me understand that one. One more. Okay. Got my pieces now. So for curved pieces like this, it's not a straight edge. What I would do is I would fold this in half. Let's mark our center. I'll do it on both sides. I'm probably not going to need that front one, but just in case. We'll do the same with this piece right here. Fold it in half. Mark our center. Okay. Do the same with this one here. Okay, now we can start sewing these together. This has that little curve at the end. Looks like I'm getting low on bobbin. I'm getting a curly here. That little curly is telling me that I'm getting low on bobbin. So if you notice, I didn't lock my stitch here. That's because I knew that I was going to come back to the other side, and I'm starting my stitch way back here instead of up here. So it's really double stitching it. That's why it's not really necessary to lock the stitch. But if you want to, you can if you want. Not only that, but after this, I'm going to be sewing on this listing right here. So that would have locked the stitch, and it's actually been stitched 3 times now. There's no way it ever would have come apart. Oh, ran out of bobbin, just like I thought. I predicted that one, right? Let's finish this one off. Okay. Next. So this one here is more straight, so you can pretty much feel confident in starting on one end and working to the other, but if it has that curve, that's why I usually start in the middle and then work my way out like I did on the last one. Well, my friends, that's our insert. Now we get to put the insert back in. So, I think I will start on this end right here. So the reason I'm doing this is because you can see here where the old thread was, where the old stitch was. If I had it the other way, like this, you can't see the old stitch. So sometimes you might miss that area if you're sewing blind. So that way, that's why I do it like this. That way there's no guessing. You know exactly where the old stitch was before. What I'm looking at is I'm looking at my marks here. Remember our chalk mark that I put? So I want to make sure that the chalk mark lines up with this intersection right here. Okay, that's one. See that right there? That's what we're doing. Putting that back together again. Okay, so let's do the other side. So I guess what I could do is I could also put a mark on the back side, which is what I should have done. So my white chalk mark is right there. My other one is right there. So I will align those. Okay. So I got my mark right here, lined it up with that seam right there. Make our intersection, get it back again. I'm trying to hold the material down so that way you guys can see. You know, it gets in the way. So we got those two sides done. Okay, now I got to put the back here together. Let's sew that up. Okay, got that. Always inspect our work. Make sure everything's going the way it's supposed to be. So this had a little bit of Velcro right here in this corner. So we'll put that back. Now the fun part. Now we got to do the front. Oh, I just remembered I got to put on the Velcro. This Velcro listing here. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. Do the other side. Okay. Now we have front here. So I'm going to just sew that together just like you normally would. Then later on we got that crazy top stitch to deal with. So make sure everything's all lined up real nice. Okay, we got our front. So technically it's all back together now. But now we have to do the top stitch. Yeah. Okay. I gotta change my thread. Looks like a light gray. So now we gotta do the top stitch. So now for technique number 824. What that is we need to be able to hit these same holes again. Right? You don't want to be making new holes. So what I do is we'll take the thread out of the needle. I'll put it under the sewing machine. So just pick any spot, lower your needle down into a hole like that. Okay, now just turn by hand or by foot, 1 revolution. Okay, put the needle down, see where it landed. So what's pretty much standard where I keep my machine is on number 7. Yours might be different, but it hit the hole. So let's try the next hole. Okay, we're doing pretty good so far. I think that we're doing really good. I guess that's it. My machine's already dialed in for that stitch length. So I'll just put my thread back in the needle again. Okay, now we'll go back to this. So you can see where the stitching here, where it stops and starts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the stitch, just to be safe, I'm going to go back 1. Okay, so I'm going to put the needle down 1 stitch behind there. Actually, I think I'm going to start on this other one. Let's do this one first. So it's close to the welt. Let's just go ahead and go for it, I guess. And they must have $1 million machine at the factory to do this. Getting close. Okay, then I'll go 1 pass right there. Okay, so we'll pull it out. Leave plenty of thread here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come on the back side here. we're going to hand tie this. Hand tie it on the back. Okay, that's that one. We'll do that on both ends. Now we'll do the second row. Okay, let's do the second one here. Trying to hit the same holes, believe it or not. Oh, the concentration. Okay, that's sewn up. Okay, we're going to go ahead and hand tie this one. Okay, turn that off. Do the next one. Okay, I think we're done. Now we got to inspect. I thought I was going to embarrass myself by not being able to do it. Wow. So this is the other one I did. It was twice as much work and twice as hard. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. So, my friends, we'll see you next Sunday morning for something completely different. Till next time, we'll see ya. If you like this video, you'll really like the next one.